Okay. I can
Hi,
see
we
we're live.
are live. So, welcome, people. My name's Roy. Channel's called Roy Reads Anything, and this is my first experiment with using StreamYard to do a live stream with my great friend and fellow booktuber Andrea from Infinite Text.
I can see that some people are already here. There's Chris. Hi, Chris.
Good.
Hi, Jeff.
Where do you see the people thing
Oh,
then?
in the comments on the side.
Ah, right. Oh, it's Greg.
Awesome.
Nice. Good. Well, we're not on our own then. That's good. um, so, just for context, I'm in England. You're in somewhere called Canada.
Yes. Uh, Canada. I'm in Toronto right now.
Right.
It's fine. Just as you said that, I got a heat warning alert. Toronto's under a heat alert.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Weather over here has been kind of weird. We had a heat wave, and then it's gone stormy and a bit cold, and then I think it's going sunny again. So who knows? It's like we're getting all the seasons. So yeah. Good. Well, we got this far. That's good. Stuff works, it would seem. Um, shall we start with the classic "What are you reading at the moment?" question?
Yeah. Should I go first?
Yeah, go for it.
So I'm currently reading. I'm finishing up King Solomon's Mines by H. Rider Haggard, and it's been pretty good. It's kind of like Indiana Jones. Well, have you read it?
Yeah, at school. So that was a
Oh,
long time ago. I've read other H. Rider Haggard stuff since then, but yeah, I do remember it, and it's been turned into movies as well.
okay. I should probably watch those, but I was expecting it to be a bit dated, and it's very like Lost World adventure, and uh,
Mm.
I feel like when you see newer things like The Mummy and Indiana Jones, and then you realize that they're based on a type of adventure story, and then you go back to the adventure story, they kind of seem a little bit basic in comparison because you've experienced it in this new, more
Yeah,
exciting
yeah, yeah.
version. But it's still fun. It's still fun.
Yeah, I guess it's old, isn't it? That's sort of Victorian times. So it would have been a different audience as well, with a different understanding of what those sort of, their view of those countries being explored would be very different.
Yeah.
There's loads of sequels. I think Alan Quatermain, he's a series character.
Yeah, so that's the third one. This is kind of, I guess it's a collection because I have King Solomon's Mines, and then She, and then Alan Quartermain is the third one, and then he's the narrator in the first one as well. I don't know, is he in She as well?
Well, eventually there's a crossover, so you get She, and then Aisha, Return of She, and somewhere along the line there's an Alan and She, so they come together in a kind of MCU kind of way.
Nice.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard you get some kind of weird esoteric philosophy, like more and more as you go on in the Haggards.
What are
But
you reading right now, Roy?
I'm reading. Well, it's Garb August, so it's about reading trashy books at the moment. So one thing I'm reading is a Regency romance by an author called Lisa Kleypas, which is I've actually got it on Kindle. Um, and I'm not sure I'm saying her name right, but I'm actually really enjoying it. So it's a quick read and it's fun and throwaway, and I'll be finished with that soon. Also, T.S. Eliot's The Wasteland. So by contrast, as well as Garb August, it's T.S. Eliot in August. So reading the sort of foundational modernist poem. So that's cool as well.
See, my fear, I don't want to do Garbagas just in case I read someone's favorite book by accident. And I'm like, see this trash, and they're like, that's my favorite book of all times. And it's like, ooh.
I kind of wish it was called something else, because you spend half your time explaining, well, it doesn't mean bad books, it means good books that are undemanding and maybe commercial and things like that. But it's hard to imagine like interviewing an author saying, oh, as it's Garb August, I thought we could interview you about your popular book series.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it is what it is, and it's fun. I mean, mostly I read sort of vintage stuff anyway, or stuff that's so obviously super commercial by, um, you know, James Patterson, for instance, is not going to be upset if people class his work in as trashy literature.
Chris is saying that The Wasteland is quite the experience.
Mm, yep,
Nice.
true enough.
We had to read that in a first year seminar, and I remember it kind of going like line by line, and the prof going over the entire context and where it comes from, and then we had to write an essay on it. It's like ingrained in my brain now.
Mm.
Yeah, Patterson having all the way to the bank.
Hi,
Did, it,
Jeff. You all right? Um,
did he
yeah, I think
co-write a book with like Bill Clinton recently? Was that him or was that someone else?
yeah, he does a lot of those so-called collaborations. Yeah, Bill Clinton and Dolly Parton and some others. It's like a fiction factory, really, because a lot of the books are basically collaborations with other writers. So the understanding is he sort of sets the tone, and there's a style, and he's probably like the editor, really.
Yeah.
But he's not actually writing the words. So another one we read, which I do happen to have, was this book Zoo, which is James Patterson and Michael Ledwidge. So here's a book where all the animals in the world start attacking humans, which is kind of a fun concept, really, but not great literature, has to be said.
And what are you reading on your Kindle?
That's where I'm reading the Lisa Kleypas Regency book. So but I think poetry I always want to read on paper. It seems it's so much about the shape of the lines and the layout, and the sort of typography is so important that it loses a lot on screen. And you never quite know if lines might be in the wrong place. So I've got not within reach, but I've got books of that, and sort of like annotated editions and that kind of stuff.
In Toronto, there's this little neighborhood where it's got a lot of artists, and one of the people who sits on a chair creates custom poems on a typewriter for you. But you just have to
Ah,
tell them a little bit about yourself first, and it's just like a typing, and then you have to pay it, $2 kind of thing.
yeah, that sounds fun.
um, yeah, I was going to ask you actually because so I started my channel in 2018. And then I had a community at the time of science fiction, fantasy people, and I met them in Dublin in 2019 for Worldcon. And then I kind of went offline during the pandemic for about 2 years. And when I came back, a lot of those people were just gone. They stopped posting. But that's when I came across your channel for the first time, and it's like this new group of people just emerged out of the blue, and I was
Hmm.
wondering like what made you want to start a booktube.
Right. Well, not to answer the question yet, but as it happens, I went to a World Con in Glasgow. I was in about 2005. So there weren't things like this then. There was barely. I mean, obviously there was the internet, but and some of the sort of forums and stuff like that. But really, social media wasn't a thing so much. So it was different. But I did really like the community spirit of it and the way it was put together. I've not really been to many cons since then. Um, yeah, so starting the channel. Um, well, there's a sort of very specific reason. So I had a little project I was doing where I bought a set of books that were sold for decorative purposes. So these were old books, pretty wrecked, and it was just like, here's a meter of books for this amount of money. So they're being sold to people who have like shelves to fill. They're not readers, or maybe they've got a cafe or a bar or something. They just want some books, some old books. We'll put them up. They'll look nice, and that's it. So I thought it might be fun to actually read the books, these books that have become so unwanted that they're just sold. The people only want them for their spines. So I had this, and I was thinking, well, it'd be nice to sort of not just do it for my own entertainment, So I looked at the available options and began to see that BookTube was a thing, and sort of thinking that, well, the technical, I could probably get my head around the technicalities of it, I suppose, and because at first, like a lot of people, you look at BookTube and there's a particular kind of like high profile channel that's kind of looks quite glamorous and stuff like that, and sort of thinking, yes, I'm not doing that. But then you drill down and there's people. I came across a few channels where I thought, oh yeah, they're really into sort of stuff that I'm into. It's not just talking about new releases. People are talking about, pulp and all sorts of things. And so I began to sort of come up with a little plan in my head and think of videos I could make as well as reading this yard of books. And it was a bit, the way I felt, it was a bit like, the movie Lord of the Rings. In about the third one, I think, you see a sort of origin story for Gollum. So you see him back when he was human, out with his brother fishing, and his brother finds the ring. And then when Smeagol, Andy Serkis, human at this point, sees the ring, he does this brilliant face that's a mixture of like massive desire for like, I really want that thing, coupled with a kind of, oh no, it's all gone horribly wrong, because he knows that his life is basically over now. It's just going to be about that. So I knew it would be so absorbing that loads of other things, would be sort of pushed aside to make room for that. Anyway, yes. So started making videos. The classic advice: just start making something. It doesn't have to be great. Don't need lots of equipment. So I did that, and then just sort of felt my way into it, really. I think it was starting doing events as well. I think it was probably an event called Autumn Amour, which is about reading romance books. Was the first event I did that was about reading stuff that I was completely outside my regular sort of reading matter. Because Garb August, it was like, yes, I read all. This is what I'd be reading anyway. How great that other people want to. But then this thing with, there were some prompts and stuff like that, and it's just really fun, like tracking down books and finding, reading something you wouldn't normally read. Obviously, you wouldn't want to only do that, but for that time, it was really good. Then you make friends, and you're part of the community, and you're in this corner of BookTube, and you meet new people, and there's extra side things like the meetups. So that's how I got into it. Yeah.
See, I remember feeling a certain amount of pressure to find my identity and my thing. Because I noticed that when I was starting, there were people who had their kind of brand. There was kind of like, I do Victorian literature, like Katie, and Olive was doing nonfiction November, and that was like her thing. And I felt so much pressure to find the thing, and I just couldn't settle on anything because I liked everything. Just like Roy Reads Anything is such a great channel title because it opens you up to do any kind of thing you want to do. But then I didn't realize how like absorbed I would be in this community because For example, I have a friend at work who likes to read, and she's like, "Yeah, you want to do a buddy read with me and read this novel, this memoir." And I was like, "In October, during Victober, you want me to read something contemporary? Are you out of your mind?" you know?
Yeah, if I was still at work, I'd be like, well, I need all of August off,
Yeah.
and I won't be around much in October.
Yeah, no, it's kind of weird because you don't realize. I think there's an illusion because of the cozy look of people just hanging out on their couch or something, that
Mm.
it is a cozy experience the whole time. You don't
Mm.
see that there's lighting and editing, and you have to think about what you're gonna do in advance for a really long time. And sometimes you have to plan these things out, and then you have to read throughout the week to have something to film in the first place.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's where I think if one were going for the kind of get like, super successful, then you'd have to have things like regular slots
Yeah.
and a clear brand and be doing that unless you like, excuse me, unless you like had your leg cut off or something, you would be
Yeah.
doing stuff. I mean, I think my channel would probably be like bigger if I had a closer focus of material and if I did that regular thing. But I just don't want to do that. So
But you know what's the best part about doing a lot of everything is that um, people kind of follow you because they like you, and then it's whatever you do is fine because
mm,
you know
mm.
that your viewers are actually people who just genuinely enjoy your company, and that's kind of
Yeah,
nice.
yeah. Well, those are the viewers we get. I mean, there might be other viewers who are like, I just want the information about the new releases so I can decide what to buy this week in my chosen genre. And that's great. And there's people who are sort of servicing that is good, I guess, if they enjoy it. What's more fun, I suppose, for me and probably for you as well, is feeling that you're sort of delving down into things quite deeply, stuff that you love. You're doing a lot of it, maybe more than you would do if you weren't on BookTube, and then you're bringing it to people with enthusiasm, and then people are maybe, because we've got all these intersecting audiences, maybe these people are like, yeah, I'd never have thought of reading that until I saw it on your channel, and I read I don't know, a Western or a private detective book, and it was really good.
Yeah, I
So
did both of those things for the first time this year because of BookTube. I had my first Western and my first private investigator. um, I think one of the things that scared me was when I heard the term public reader, like you're a public reader. And I don't know
mm,
why I found
mm,
that kind of offensive. Like, how dare you? I read privately. And then I share
mm,
my reading experience and thoughts, which I thought about for many days. And then I shared that part of the reading. It's not like I'm reading out loud in public all the time.
mm,
I don't know why I found that so weird to hear the term public reader. But then it does kind of add, like, for example, sometimes I'll read something that I don't necessarily enjoy or have anything to say. Like, my only
mm,
words
mm,
are kind of like, was fine. I have nothing to add. But then because you spent the last week reading that, you feel like you have to tell people about it, because you read it, so that was your week. And
mm,
then you have to
mm,
bring
mm.
yourself to talk about it.
But people do, or they talk about, I couldn't read anything this week, and this is why. I guess that's part of the sort of honesty of it. So, would you do you DNF books, Andrea?
Oh,
If you,
yeah, yeah, yeah. I DNF a lot. But I don't talk about books I DNF generally because if
mm,
if a book doesn't get me for the first few chapters, I'm out. Like I don't want to spend time pushing through just for the sake of having
mm,
finished it.
mm,
And I tell people this. I've shared it a few times on my channel, but the reason my channel is called Infinite Text is because I pushed through Infinite Jest.
Right.
And I did not love it. I did not love it. But you know, when you make it through something very difficult, you kind of feel the need to brag about it. So, and it's that theory is like, would you climb Mount Everest if you couldn't tell anyone you did it?
Mm,
Because a lot of
mm,
people wouldn't, right? They only
mm,
do it to
mm.
say that they've done it. And after I kind of tried to flex in a reading community about loving, I even said I loved it, Infinite Jest. Someone said, "Oh, well, you know, it's funny you mention it. We're hosting a reading group this whole summer. We're gonna do Infinite Summer. Would you like to be the leader of the group and lead discussion?" And that's where my entire summer went. And now I had
Oh,
to read it for the second time, and I regretted every single moment of that summer. And I wish I had not lied about liking it. And I've learned my lesson, and I'm like, you know what? From now on, I will DNF everything I hate. I will never lie about having liked something that I
mm,
didn't,
mm,
just because
mm.
some fancy people say it's good, you know. And it's not that it's not. It's got great ideas in it. I just feel like David Foster Wallace put those ideas better in a short essay in his book, A Supposedly Fun Thing I'll Never Do Again is the collection. There's one in there about television and a few about addiction. And I think he captures all of the message of Infinite Jest in one simple essay. And if you just read that one essay, it's clear to the point and it packs everything. You don't need to read the 1,000 page plus footnote Infinite Jest, you know?
Good. Well, yeah, I wasn't planning to anyway, but
Well, I
I
mean, like after
absolutely
that
won't now.
experience, yeah, after that experience, I've just really committed to DNFing.
I've noticed there seems to be a trend for short books in the sort of litfic area. So, like the Booker long list this year, there seems to be lots of books that are, ironically, not long. They seem to be short, which is actually quite good. And maybe that's part of a sort of a thing of, you know, this means you get more, you get read a lot more if people find it more sort of digestible.
Do you follow a lot of prizes?
No. I mean, it's hard to miss that one, but I can sort of see the fun there will be for people who are into it, for trying to guess and, you know, develop an opinion about what should win and what should be on the short list and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm not mad for it. I probably will read a couple of the Booker books this year just for the hell of it, just to prove that I haven't been so corrupted by pulp that I can only read a book with an exploding robot on the cover.
See, I got the sense from watching your videos that you started off with classics and then worked your way into pulps. Is that true, or was it the other way around?
Not really. No, I mean, thinking of sort of reading history. I mean, yeah, there were books we studied at school, obviously, that were classics that I did read. But and I did read, you know, more. I read, like, we did some Shakespeare for exams, and I read more Shakespeare, for instance. But I was always much more passionate. You know, the stuff I would like cross the street to find is much more the sort of pulp adventure, science fiction type of stuff. And then now and again, and I'm talking about way before BookTube, I'm talking about my teens, really. Now and again, I'd like want to burn through a new genre and like read loads of crime or read loads of, I don't know, hard SF, you know. Then I read a Stephen King book and discovered that, you know, modern horror, and read loads of that. So I was, sort of, those things would go in waves. So really, I've always been much more of a genre reader. Actually, I see that Gavin from Genre Books has just shown up, so I'm not the only one.
Oh
But
yeah,
I've
we
kind
should
of
probably read
kept
your
my hand
comment.
in with classics, you know. I mean, how about you? Because you're into sort of weird tales and that kind of thing.
So, I mean, I initially was into classics, I was mentioning to you earlier, so I'm from Romania, and growing up, we didn't really have that many new books, right? Like I didn't grow up with Harry Potter or things like that. So the new books never reached me, and I was just kind of raised on fairy tales mostly and folklore. And then when we moved to Canada, I started dipping into the classics. And when I decided to be a reader, I just went through those lists, when they say top 100 classics you must read. And I just tried to
Mm.
tick them down the list. And then I went into English literature at university. So then I did more classics, and you kind of do the foundations of English lit. So we did mythology, Shakespeare, Victorian lit, a lot of medieval stuff. And then by fourth year, we kind of went to the colonies, writing back to, say, things from Latin America or from other places. And I kind of broadened my reading scope a little bit. And as I was in library school during my master's, I discovered BookTube. So I started watching people, and it was for the first time I was seeing people read new publications. I was not in tune with who's publishing now at all. And watching booktubers talk about this, I was like, wow, like they seem to know a lot about the publishing scene, but they also seem to know who they are as people and as readers. And I felt like for me, I had just had my reading list curated by the education system. I
Mm.
didn't
Mm.
know what I liked. So I kept watching booktubers to try to find my people, and I found the science fiction people and the speculative fiction people, and I loved them so much. I went to two World Cons with them. So we went to Dublin in 2019 and Chicago, and then I felt like they were my people, but there was still something kind of different. Like they were more into like the hard sci-fi,
Mm.
and I felt like I really liked the darker folklore, darker legends, but not quite horror. I couldn't pinpoint it. And then I found the Weird Tales booth,
Right, right, right.
and I was like, "Wait a minute, this is it right here. These are my people." And yeah, it just after that, I just started collecting things, and I found all these weird corners, and I guess it's weird fiction that I really love for fun. That I haven't DNF'd a short story of weird fiction, and they're short, and that really helps, too,
Mm.
because you
Mm.
sprint through so
Mm.
many and you get to know them a little bit, and it's kind of fun. And I think it's growing. Like I'm seeing more and more people on, or maybe the algorithm is pushing more people my way. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, that's really interesting because I came to, I mean, talking about weird tales specifically, and I guess might be worth saying for people who might not know about it, it was a pulp magazine in the 30s, and then it's had various incarnations since then, and it published lots of classic works that have, that are still well known, and also lots of things that are pretty forgotten, as well as illustrations and poetry. I mean, you don't hear so much about the poetry side. But yeah, so I'd read H.P. Lovecraft because my dad had some big like horror story collections in the house. So I read those, and that's how I found Lovecraft. Of course, he was very different from like gothic tales or traditional ghost stories. So I was into those, and I had some couple of paperbacks of him as well. So I knew Lovecraft. Then I came across Robert E. Howard and Conan stories in one of the paperbacks that was published over here. So in America, they were Lancer books. In the UK, there were Sphere books. So there were these collections of Conan stories. And because those had introductions explaining stuff, they would sort of, I knew that a lot of those had been in Weird Tales, and I knew that Lovecraft had been in Weird Tales, and in fact that Howard and Lovecraft knew each other. And then I found Clark Ashton Smith, who again, big series of paperbacks over here. Really loved those, sort of different to the other two, but with some similarities. And again, he's part of this weird tales gang. So I was always aware that somehow this old magazine had been the source of all sorts of cool stuff. And then when they revived it in the 80s, I subscribed to it for a while when they were like sort of A4 size books
Well,
with
yeah, I
nice
have
paper.
two here, and it's like one of them is a lot shorter than the other one.
Ah, yeah. I think I was in the shorter era.
This one, yeah, that's really cool. It's funny because a lot of my new friends that I've been making in this weird tales genre of, on BookTube, they're all at Pulp Fest right now in Pittsburgh.
Ah, right.
And yesterday, my friend Brian from Bad Taste Books, he messaged me some pictures of Weird Tales magazine at Pulp Fest, and one of them was going for $3,000.
Oh,
And I think it's because it had one of the earlier Robert T. Howard in it, and I think the cover was done by Margaret Brundage, so it's higher. Um,
right.
yeah. So then it decided, let me see how many I have. So I took them, I put all of my weird tales on the bed, and I took a picture, and I realized I have a lot. I thought I was just kind of getting one here, one there, one off of eBay, one at a random book sale, and then suddenly it's grown into this giant collection. And yeah, I don't think these ones go for $3,000, but
But it's lovely to have them and know that that was the original kind of
yeah.
incarnation of that story. That's the actual ink on paper that people were looking at with their eyes when it was brand new. And I do
Yeah.
love magazines, and I've talked quite a lot about old magazines on the channel, particularly Victorian ones.
Do you have Punch?
Punch, yes, I have some punches. In fact, as it happens, right within reach, I've got a relatively recent punch from 1967.
Wow.
But I've got some of the bound sets of Victorian ones as well. But they're pretty crumbly. I mean, those you can pick up for a few pounds because it was such a huge selling magazine that there's just like loads of them around. But yeah, I mean, that sort of defines sort of that was like the satirical magazine of the country that was imitated, but you know, you got lots of great stuff in it, like
I love the
cartoons
ads
by
too.
John Tenniel.
Yeah. He would have done those. So he did the Alice in Wonderland too, right?
Yeah.
I just love seeing the ads in all of these. Like the ads are phenomenal. You got this old technology, but also there's people who are selling their nonfiction books about the occult, and they're
Mm.
so cool. They're like, "Do you want to know what happens in the afterlife? Come to our club in the basement of this building on this day."
Yeah, there always used to be adverts for sort of things like Rosicrucianism and stuff like that as well. Sort of these arcane, esoteric, spiritual paths. Just have a quick look at the comments.
Yeah.
See if
I've been
anybody.
I've been reading them as they come, but I can't control the putting them on the screen thing.
Okay, so Jeff thinks King Solomon's Mines is great. Yep, got to agree with that. It's certainly a classic.
Sorry, just to add one more thing about King Solomon's Mines. I'm also following with the audiobook, and the audio is read by Toby Stevens,
Oh yeah,
Maggie
he's
Smith's
good.
son.
Right, oh is he? Oh, fancy that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he played Captain Flint in Black Sails, so that's also
Right.
fun.
Ah, I think he was a Bond villain once, if it's the guy I'm thinking of.
I don't know.
So Jeff says you should try She for your next Haggard read, Andrea. Yep. She is definitely worth reading. It's really cool. Again, it's sort of Lost Race, but in a it's a
Yeah,
different kind of way.
too much is never enough. I think that was about having too many weird tales. Haggard falls under naturalism. Hi, Chris. Yeah.
What's naturalism then?
Well, I was thinking it's the same as Emile Zola, right? Where you're
Oh
talking
yeah.
about like people, or is it natural? Are you thinking natural history or naturalism, as in like human nature kind of things? I'm
Hmm.
sure maybe Chris can.
They don't strike me as works of incredible realism.
Yeah.
Right then, Wasteland is quite the experience. Yep. Um, Patterson laughing all the way to the bank. I think he is. Da, 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 da. Poetic busking. That'd be your typewriter guy.
Yep. Yes,
Um,
Andrea showing off some of the collection. Yes, every day I'll pull something
Williams
as Williams
Library.
Library.
Took a few months for me to carve out my niche. I think that's got to be the right way to go about it. If you kind of try to hang back until you've got the perfect formula, you won't know sort of what you really want to do and what people are going to respond to. I think so. I think that's fine. And if people even need to rebrand or relaunch as something else, I think that's fine too. When you're in the relatively early days.
Well, even beyond niche, I found, for example, with some books, when I reviewed them immediately after finishing them, sometimes I didn't really process the narrative properly in my head. Like sometimes I need to sit on a book for a while to know what I think about it. And
Mm,
I
mm.
found that I had to delete some of my earlier reviews because I was so impulsive to say, oh, I don't get it, or what's the point, or this was not great. And then I'll think about it and I'm like, oh my God, that was actually a very good point. Like, I
I'd love
regret
to see a
saying that.
video of you just going through books saying, "Oh, I don't get it. What's the point?"
Well, no, one of the ones that comes to mind, I read this book by Knut Hamsun, who's a Norwegian Nobel Prize winner, and he wrote this book called Growth of the Soil. And in this book, there's a man and a woman. They live in the mountains, and they have a baby, and she feels the need to kill the baby right away. And there's a lot of infanticide in that book, and I found it very bizarre. And then I processed it, and I was like, oh, it's because the main character had a deformity her whole life. She had a cleft lip, and then the babies were also born with a cleft lip, and she felt like she didn't want them to have her life experience, and it's this other thing that's there. And yeah, and it almost reminded me of parts of Beloved by Toni Morrison. And I thought, oh, now that I think about it, there's a lot to go into here. And before I was just like, well, what was the point of doing that? It's like an impulsive kind of.
Yeah. See,
Okay,
that's the
so
trouble with literature. It's litfic is so much more shocking than shocking literature.
we got an answer from Chris on naturalism. So a literary
Oh,
movement
okay.
that emerged in the late 19th and early 20th centuries where Burroughs Falls, Edgar Rice.
Yeah. So is that like it's exalting nature, that kind of thing?
Yeah.
Okay. So back on the sort of guess we're talking about the having themes in your booktube channel. Jeff too would be bored sticking to one genre. Scared to talk about anything other than science fiction. Went better than I expected. Ah, right. Interesting. Japanese literature in translation. I think in translation videos in general always seem to do pretty well. I guess it's usually going to be something that's a little bit unusual for people and who want to know more.
It I don't know how this works, but when I did my review on Treasure Island a few months ago, one of my booktube friends was in Japan, and he was on YouTube there, and he sent me a screenshot of YouTube recommending my video on Treasure Island, but it was all the caption and everything was in Japanese. And
Oh,
I
wow.
didn't do any of that. Like my thumbnail
Mm,
was with
mm, mm.
Japanese,
Oh,
and
really?
I didn't know how that happened. Punch
Mm.
exists.
Uh, yeah, didn't know Punch was published into the 60s. Published into the 2000s, mate. Finally ran out of steam fairly recently. Um, good. More endorsement for that audio book. Okay, interesting. Right, yeah, Edgar Rice Burroughs. And Greg is a fan of Growth of the Soil. Which one was that?
That was the one from Norway, the one with
Oh,
the,
okay. Hmm. The infanticide one.
yeah, which is a lot more beautiful than I explained it, because they live in the mountains, so it's very, you know, living off grid kind of descriptive. The nature is beautiful. That's why I deleted my review, because I thought it was much more beautiful afterwards.
Okay, so talking of beautiful things, we've both buddy read Spores of Doom, Tales
Hmm.
of the Weird book. So still with the weird, but in a different way. So this is a series of books published by British Library Publishing, where they are anthologies of weird stories on a theme. Usually the majority being old ones, and usually at least some of the materials going to be obscurities that the editors dug out, fair to say. And I think we've both got quite a few of them. So Spores of Doom, I'll never get used to this camera thing. It's Tales of the Fungal Weird. So we've spent some time with the scary mushrooms. So so how did you find it? I know you haven't got your physical book with you.
Yeah, I left it at work. Well, at the beginning, I felt like it was a bit forced, the stories that they put in there. The A Voice in the Night by William Hope Hodgson was amazing. I loved it.
Mm.
Still my favorite of the whole thing, and it was a good start. And then afterwards, there were some where I felt like they really tried to squeeze that story in there, where the theme didn't really match, or like they could have put something else in, like
Mm.
the Edgar Allan Poe story. Was it the Fall of the House of the Usher?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I mean, I remember there's some scenes in the crypt that were a little fungal, sort of, but I felt like that was a stretch to put it in there.
Mm.
But then there were some that were pretty spot on, but they weren't that great, like the H.G. Wells story, The Purple. That was weird.
Yeah, that was sort of, I found that a bit unpleasant.
Yeah,
I seem to remember, is it a guy, he kind of falls out with his family, goes out for a walk, and somehow ends up consuming a toadstool
yeah,
that sends him kind of super super assertive. He changes his personality for a brief period, something like that.
yeah.
It's
But
a
I
little
think
bit
I would have
tricky.
liked to see more of the second part in that story, because the first part was just how annoyed he was at his family and his wife,
Mm,
but he was being kind of
mm.
rude about it in a way that was just okay. Like let's get to the mushrooms.
They didn't know they were writing for a fungus genre that didn't exist yet.
Yes, that's true.
I think, yeah, I was surprised at the number of well-known stories in this, e.g., the yellow wallpaper. Again,
Yeah,
not really a super fungusy story. Um, I kind of enjoyed the ones I didn't know at all. Mark Samuels is an author I didn't know. Um, that's the one set in the asylum. Um, and there's a good E.F. Benson story, but yeah, it's fine. I mean, it's. I think then maybe the editors are fishing in a bit of a diminishing pool, because The Voice in the Night by William Hope Hodgson, that's in two others of these.
yeah,
For good reasons. There's a botanical one and there's a sea one, and it is all of those things as well. And it
yeah.
sort of doesn't make sense to not have it, but it's I buy them for the novelty of things I've never found.
No, I still loved it. I thought it was great in the end, and I think the second half introduced me to a lot of new stories that I didn't read before. And um, my favorite one so far is the ships one. It was my favorite read of last year. I really enjoyed that one. The From the Deep, I think it was called, or From the Depths. The British Library, not in the Spores of Grey.
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. That was good. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I guess it's a really good theme, and yeah, yeah. I like the well. It's the occult detective one's good. Um, the Great God Pan one's good. I can't remember what it's called now, but it's
I don't
story.
have that one yet. I think
Right.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
try to read the Ghost Slayers one in October this year, if possible. I think that's where I'm gonna land with the if occult detective fiction October is still happening. But if not, I could
Mm,
just read it.
mm.
Sometimes I forget I could do things without permission. Like
I know. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't need a challenge to read this.
Yeah, I mean, unless it's like reading one book, sort of, you might as well, because even there'd be loads of other occult detective books to read.
Yeah. Oh, Chris is saying that the Fall of the House of Usher has a weird fungus growing over all the bricks. It's a throwaway moment, but Poe takes a second to talk about the fact that it seems to be somewhat of a supernatural fungus. Yeah, it's very short. It's not very it doesn't take over the narrative in a way that's very dominant.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know, Chris. It is public. Like in Canada, I find it in bookstores. This collection from the British Library, like it is in newer bookstores, but you can also just get them online from the British Library themselves. Like they have a subscription box. Roy, you have the subscription, right?
I did for a while. Um, Jeff says, I presume he's talking about these. He has several of them in Kindle format. So on UK Kindle, they're in the unlimited package, so it's like if you're a subscriber to that, you can get them for free, which is good. But they are nice books. I mean, they do put a lot, even though they're only paperbacks, they put a lot into the packaging of them. They've always got cool art, and the way the printing's done and the color choices are really fun. And if you do the subscription package where you get sent the books as they come out, you get extra stuff like bookmarks and postcards and things like that. So yeah, good times.
Maybe that's what I'm gonna ask for Christmas this year. I'm gonna be like, get me a subscription to Tales of the Weird. That'd be cool.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So why did H.G. Wells predate Super Mario?
Because of the mushrooms.
Oh, right, okay. Sorry, the last video game I played was like before that. It was something called Manic Miner on a ZX Spectrum. So I know of them, but okay. We have a new arrival, Matthew. Um, oh, I get it, I think. Yeah, 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 yeah. Right, right. Okay. Probably then the book by Karl May. Looks like it's Karl May, but Karl May, a German writer that I'm going to be.
Winnetou?
Yes, yeah. I'm buddy reading that with Angelina from Books Do Things to Me next month. So I get the impression that might be in that sort of wheelhouse as well.
Probably, yeah.
Mm.
Have you read any Canadian literature that you
O-
like?
only some guy called Robertson Davies.
Actually?
Yeah, yeah, I devoured. Back when I was alive, Robertson Davies books used to be regularly misshelved in shops because the editions of his Deptford trilogy, I think it starts with Fifth Business and then there's the Manticore. Um, the way the covers were done, and I suppose titles like the Manticore, meant booksellers thought, fantasy. So you'd come across them even if you weren't in the literature section. So I ended up buying Fifth Business just because I thought it looked good. And I read those and thought they were fantastic. And then I read basically every other major thing he did. And it's just such a great writer. And I think he's the kind of writer when you're like, once you get into it, it's like you're sort of purring with delight at the way you're being given all this stuff to be absorbed into. Um, Also, I think he's a super erudite author, but unlike some of the modernists we've been reading, he's not like throwing it at you with loads of allusions and things you need to decipher. They're really entertaining reads as well. So yeah, that would be one.
Wait, Roy, you do know where I work, right?
Yeah,
Can I?
your library is
The Robertson Davies
nest-
Library.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Um,
That's
so
awesome.
I'm the only librarian in the building, but we have like a rare book collection that's only about rare books, manuscripts, and a big Victorian collection. But then the college itself was started by Robertson Davies.
Oh wow.
So he went to England and Oxford and then modeled when he came back to Canada in the 60s. He modeled this college after the Oxford ones.
Oh right.
So right now, they kind of cleared out his office because a new principal came in and they wanted to get rid of a lot of the books that Robertson Davies subscribed to when he was in office. And they kicked out a lot of his books, and I kept them. They're in my office now, and a lot of them are Punch magazine.
Oh, okay. That's why you mentioned Punch. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Right. Yeah. That's another thing about Robertson Davies is at times he's very funny,
Yeah,
um, and you just get the impression that he's somebody who like loved life and wanted to expand life for the readers of his books.
yeah. He wrote a lot, and he was very busy. Like every day, I learned something new about him because I have like his archives and all of his stuff, and you get all these photos of him, and he just loved to write and to laugh. And then he had these Christmas gaudy things where he would write ghost stories at Christmas for the students who lived there.
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. Like M.R. James did at his college.
Yeah,
Yeah, which he would know, obviously, but yeah, I think those are in a collection. I think you can get or used to be able to get. Hmm. Well, yeah. So there's that. I mean, I've probably read Canadian writers without particularly knowing.
yeah, by accident. Well, I guess Margaret Atwood is the big one right now, right?
Uh huh.
I I've met her a few
Hmm.
times, but I haven't really read more than The Handmaids. We had to read that in class.
Right. 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 Yeah.
Andrea has the coolest job. Yes, I do, Chris.
Yeah. So meeting authors can be good.
Yeah, I mean, I used to have some like drive to go to these things like readings and then try to shake their hands or take a picture, and then I would tell stories to people about the authors I've met, but I never felt like I had a cool like it was never a personal thing because you always just line up and you meet the author
Mm,
who's met a
mm,
thousand
mm.
people that day.
Yeah, I suppose so. I really never know what to say because if you like their work, well, they know what their work's like. They did it.
Yeah.
Um, it's- you know, I mean, apart from like, will you sign my book? I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, I met Neil Gaiman once at LaGuardia Airport in New York, and it was right after the first Trump election, and everyone was
Oh,
kind of in shock that he had won. And then I'm at LaGuardia, and there's Neil Gaiman, and I took a selfie with him, and I was just so happy to tell that story to people. And now I feel like he's getting in a little bit of a legal trouble and people don't
Mm.
speak about him. So it's like, okay, I guess there goes my story that I can't talk about anymore.
Yeah, well, there is that obviously. But I've met some writers. I mean, you mentioned prizes. Where I used to work at a university that had a prize for short story collections. So I met a bunch that way. But then, of course, you're talking to them about the event that you're doing. So you just talk about normal stuff, really, like, yeah, the bar's over there, sort of thing. Okay, did we have any more? We've done about an hour, I think.
Um, some people are recommending more authors, I think. Carl
Ooh.
Schroeder. I have not even heard of Matthew is suggesting one. I don't know if you see that comment. Have you read that author, Roy?
No. I'll make a note of that. I don't know how. Don't know if you can cut and paste comments. And aliens invading Canada.
Interesting.
Sounds good.
Well, I've read a lot of English authors, Roy. You kind of have to.
Yeah, they're probably hard to miss, I suppose.
Well, especially when you do an English lit degree, they kind of take you on the English canon.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I know there's a lot of sort of suggestion of reading beyond the canon, like, more international authors, more work in translation. So I try and do a bit of that, though I sort of feel like I haven't finished the original canon yet. But yeah, it's an interesting one.
Roy, is there a genre you've never read any books from? Like you've completely stayed away from a genre?
Possibly not in terms of a genre, a whole genre. You could find weird, I've never read like shifter romances or some of these, like, I don't know, pregnant brides or sort of, Western mail order bride westerns. So sub genres I haven't read. And I guess the two that kind of seem to fall lowest on the pecking order of civilians would be westerns and romances. And I've read those and found ones to enjoy. Yeah, and I can't really think too much.
What about when another question I had brainstormed for you for this chat was I wanted to ask you, when did you get into Sherlock?
Do you mean Sherlock Holmes, Arthur
Yes.
Conan Doyle stories, not
Yes.
the specific TV
Yeah, not
series?
the TV show, no.
No. I think it was probably with the Jeremy Brett television series. So that came on in the mid-80s. And I was I'd probably before that sort of half seen some other movies and stuff and like knew who the character was. But was it that, or was it? No. Marvel Comics did a 2 issues of a black and white Sherlock Holmes comic book, and it was that. So I'd just buy comics, because they were there, and that was great. It was an adaptation of Hound of the Baskervilles. So I think it was that, and then the Jeremy Brett series just blew me away because it has all the production values of a frock opera, historical television shows. In fact, it was made by some of the main people. Can't speak. It was made by some of the people who made shows like Upstairs, Downstairs, which was a big Edwardian family saga. So you get all those qualities, but with adventure stories and with this fantastic performance at the center of it all. So I think that really hooked me in. And then I got a complete Tales and read all of those. And since then, I've read quite a lot of pastiches as well. And I really like the, I think it's called Holmes for the Holidays event in February as a prompted excuse to read some more Sherlock stuff.
See, I
So
haven't read any pastiche of any kind. I feel like I'm still working my way through the originals. Is it one of those things where you have to know the canon first before you can enjoy a pastiche? Like the same way a spoof movie is made and you kind of have to have seen the original for it to be funny?
maybe not every single detail. I mean, I think some of the big events, like the Reichenbach Falls and stuff like that, would often be referred to. So, you know, pastiches might be either before, during, or after the disappearance time when everybody thought Holmes was dead. And then sometimes little things, you know, sometimes Doyle has Watson doing that thing of alluding to other cases that without just giving you an intriguing glimpse of either ones that, you know, the world's not ready to hear about, or, you know, we this happened. The giant rat of Sumatra is one of them. So that's just thrown in, and there is a book with the giant rat of Sumatra story, and I think other books where the giant rat of Sumatra comes back. So the more you know, the more you'd get the Easter eggs. But I think beyond that, you can just you know, you can just pick them up as and when.
There's a group of people in Toronto called the Bootmakers, and it's basically all ages and hardcore Sherlock fans. And they have events every month, and sometimes we watch a movie together or something. But it gets weirder and weirder as you get deeper into it. They have holiday Christmas carols with only Sherlock words in there and cases instead of the Christmas songs, and they have themed foods that are only from Sherlock or things that were mentioned in Sherlock stories. That's what they're serving for the meals, and all kinds of lore around Sherlock. And it's really fun. But then you get to realize that everybody's really really into Sherlock. Like I thought I liked Sherlock Holmes. Clearly not enough.
Yeah, I can see that level is. I just think it for me. It stops being fun beyond a certain level when you sort of get so into the minutiae, really. But you know, each to their own.
Well, I feel like for me, I grew up in the 2000s, I guess, where people, the way that they showed that they're really into something was by collecting as much merch as possible, right? It's like, no, I'm the bigger Harry Potter fan because look, my entire room has only Hermione Granger things. And it's like, I felt like these people kind of were giving off the same, like, no, you don't know the details of the sub footnotes from every Sherlock story. So you're not a real fan.
Yeah. Quick look at the comments. Lawrence Manning, another author we haven't heard of.
Not me.
From Canada. Man Who Awoke. Okay. Roy reads Sweet Valley High, so he has read everything. That's true. Is William Gibson claimed by Canada? Yeah, that's interesting. Went to school in BC. I don't know. There aren't statues of him, and
no, there are no statues.
He needs to endow a library.
Yeah.
Jeremy Brett, the best ever Holmes. A lot of people would agree. What is that beautiful piece of furniture behind you? This. Or this? Well, the answer's the same for both, really. Jenny's dad was a cabinet maker, and they're both things he made for the family home. So this thing was actually built to hold record players and stuff like that, and the records and everything, you know. So there's like holes cut in the back and things like that to make. So these would have had like equipment in them. And then down below, there's basically a cupboard with the right size for putting 12-inch albums. Yeah, that's what that is. And the bookshelves, he made those to hold Everyman books. So Everyman produced a series of, I think, factual books on various. No, they weren't just factual, because you'd get like the Everyman edition of, you know, Plato or something like that. So it was one of these series of books that lots of people would get lots and lots of, or even try to collect them all, because it was sort of the idea of improving literature and improving information, you know, knowledge, and you having all this stuff in your home. So the shelves were built to be the exact height for those things, which luckily is the right size for proper paperbacks. So my beloved Ballantine adult fantasy series, which are, you know, classic pocket-sized paperbacks, they all fit perfectly, which is a thing of great joy.
That's so nice. All my furniture is from IKEA.
All the rest is outside of this one frame. You just see absolute chaos, you know. So
Yeah, it's funny. We had a little bit of a
curated it.
flooding situation in our apartment once, and then this guy came and he looked at my bookshelf and he went, "Is this from IKEA?" And I said, "Yes." And he's like, "Okay, so it doesn't matter." And then he just ripped it off the shelf. Like, whoa, that's
I've
rude.
got some of those. We've got some weirdly skinny ones that are actually quite useful for fitting into odd little spaces
And corners, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, so Chris has got some Everyman libraries. Do you have the entire Ballantine adult fantasy series? That depends how you define it. So basically what happened is, back in the 1960s, Ace Books brought out a edition of The Lord of the Rings, which they weren't meant to. So it's like a pirate edition. But then sort of Ballantine Books did an authorized one with like Tolkien's personal blessing. And that was a massive success for them. So the initial sort of super surge in popularity of Tolkien being read on like campuses and stuff, that was partly fueled by having these paperbacks. So Ballantine, then they published every other thing that Tolkien had ever produced. Obviously The Hobbit, but also other stories and things like that. Not all the sort of stuff you get now, the stuff that had been, you know, been unearthed, but sort of all his work. And it's like, what more can we do? They published some other fantasy stuff like Mervyn Peake, and then they got Lynn Carter, kind of a pulp author, to be the editor of a series of fantasies. So yes, so there's this series of, I think, I don't know, 60 or 70 books, can't remember the number, that were, a lot of them reprinted from the old days and some new stuff as well. So yes, I've got all of those, got all the Lynn Carter ones, got the Mervyn Peakes and the E.R. Edisons and those kind of ones, got the Tolkiens, apart from The Road Goes Ever On, which is his songs with like music, and that is sort of that combination of like, I'm so not interested in that, and it's so expensive because because it's scarce, that I just haven't got it. So like I say, if you define the Ballantine adult fantasy series as being the ones edited by Lynn Carter that had a little adult fantasy logo, sounds so dodgy, you know. Ooh, yes, got my adult fantasy books. Then yes, I've got all of them. Some people also add to that by getting other books that Ballantine produced that sort of look like they ought to have been in the series. So there's a couple of Lovecrafts that for some reason didn't get the branding, and they were they you know I haven't got all of those. And some people collect ones that Lynn Carter said he would have published if they'd carried on with the series, so you can get that sort of extra one. Yeah.
I just collected the Lynn Carter's, the four Weird Tales ones that he did. The little, I don't know.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, because that's I think Lynn Carter, he went on to do year's best fantasy stories. I think there are about 6 of those, and those Weird Tales when it was in paperback form, and other stuff as well. So yeah, I did get the Tolkien's. I've even got those Ace ones, which are really lovely. Yep, the Mabinogion series of Angeline Walton. So 4 of those. I mean, she was really, that was like, this series did lots of good stuff for fantasy, including rediscovering authors. So I think she had written 1 or 2 of the series and then did the others because because they'd come back into popularity. All the Carters, yeah. Yeah, the songs, I know. Again, it's a bit like you were saying about Sherlock, Andrea, that there's a level of fandom where for Tolkien where people like learn the languages and
That
sing
okay, that
songs.
was me. I have a book of learning Sindarin because they didn't make one for Quenya yet, but I really considered learning everything about Elvish, and I wanted to be able to have a conversation in pure Elvish. I didn't get that far, but I liked writing it out.
Yeah, it's visually very beautiful without necessarily understanding it. So yep, and Walton, Carter series, yep.
Yes.
I have. I did one once, but it's so long ago. It's like a lot cruder. I was like crouching down behind my chair, like pulling them out.
And it has all of them?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I have not seen that. Have I?
Yeah.
I should go back.
Well, watch this space. Now then, what's going on here?
I'm not gonna do that.
I think there's 2 kinds of people in the world. There's the people who reread Lord of the Rings and read the poems and songs, and there's the people who, when they reread Lord of the Rings, skip over anything that's got that's either a poem or a song. And I'm in the latter group, I'm afraid. Yep, Lynn Carter, not the best writer, but you know what? Sometimes I would just want to get a Thongor book or something, and spend a few hours reading that and not worry about anything. And he's such an enthusiast. I think coming back to these Ballantines, sorry, the introductions to them, he's so enthusiastic about the stuff you're just about to read, and they're like espresso shots. They're just fantastic. And one of the books is a critical work. It's called Imaginary Worlds, and it's his history of fantasy. It's deeply problematic because he has this kind of the men who invented fantasy idea and sort of relates it all to some sort of bearded Victorians, which I think, I don't think it's not the whole story, but it's still a good read and a beautiful cover.
Garbogist.
Yeah, that's it. I'm falling down on my trash reading duties. I just DNF'd talking of DNFing, I did just DNF a book, actually. This novel by Kristen Ritter, Bonfire. Had to go. I mean, I read 30% of it, but I just thought this isn't going to be a good use of my time.
Roy, can I ask you a question on your book buying habits?
Mm.
Do you go to bookstores for fun to just browse and then see what you end up with, or do you always have a tally, like I'm going for this specific book, if they have it great, if they don't, I'm not buying anything? Or do you go online and order things to be delivered at your door, kind of thing?
Well, it depends what it is, I suppose. If I definitely want it, I try to support our local bookstore. I mean, I live in a small town. Okay, it's population about 30,000, and we haven't got every store you can imagine. So the fact that we have a branch of Waterstones, even though Waterstones are a bit of a sort of a big bad because there's, they sort of have a disproportionate influence on publishing because they're huge over here. If that branch disappeared from our town, it would be like the last proper bookshop. So I do sometimes, if it go and buy stuff from there, just to sort of Plus, I think that it's one of the great pleasures of life is going to a bookshop with the way the paper smells and things like that.
But Waterstones has a section usually of secondhand books too, right?
No, no, no. I don't think I've ever seen that. I think the really huge ones do. Yes, yes. Some of the big London branches and probably other ones in big cities where they've got like 5 floors or whatever. Yeah, they do have secondhand sections. And one of the London ones has even got like books out on the streets that are like, the really cheap ones. So there's some of them cover all the bases and have cafes and whatnot and sell stationery and art, but ours is just a basic new bookstore. But yeah, I mean, if I'm trying to find something incredibly specific, obviously online is the way to go. But
It
I
just,
would
I feel
like
like
it.
a lot of the people I'm watching right now, like Michael K. Vaughan closing off his book buying at the moment, you get to see kind of the things he's already had in his house before. And when I see your collection, I feel like you have all these books that are older publications. So I'm wondering if you got those before, or are you getting them now? Like, or do you have a collection that's kind of formed and now you're just kind of adding occasional gems to them? Or because a lot of people are just kind of, you know, hoarding new publications as they come in piles and piles and TBRs.
Mm, mm. Yeah, well, I do a bit of that. I mean, I think a lot of when I'm buying new books, it's often for some sort of future event. I mean, obviously, by definition, it is because you can't have read them in the past, but like a booktube event. So I bought some books for Jane Austen July, for instance. But I think in terms of older stuff, like my Victorian magazines and that kind of thing, a lot of that I started getting when I was studying. So after I retired, I did a master's in 19th century studies, it was called, which is a mixture of history and literature. So I and I got really interested in Victorian magazines and the sort of the way that those magazines shaped the stories that were in them.
And
That
during your masters, did they have a, do you have a syllabus that you have to read certain things that are kind of prescribed to you, or do you get to have an open-ended thesis where you get to decide what you're reading for it?
well, the thesis was open-ended, but there'd be set reading within each of the modules, depending what it was. So we did a Victorian decades one where we read a book or two for each of the weeks, or sometimes it was looking at some art or something. I did one of the modules was about performance, so there was stuff there like books about the theatre, or plays, obviously. And then with other things, like there was the entertaining the Victorians was a bit more exploratory into archives. of things like magazines, like Punch, but also I wrote a piece for that about a sort of local equivalent of Punch that was produced here, and I said how tiny our town was, but such was the craze for satirical magazines that there were like short-lived versions of them pretty much anywhere you can imagine, although ours is probably one of the smallest towns that actually had one. And nobody's read it. Nobody's read it for decades. And it's not online. Nobody's scanned it. So I went to the British Library and like scanned them all. So, at the moment, that's something I'm sitting on, and I can delve into that and do stuff with it.
Maybe
Yeah,
you should build the digital archive for it.
yeah. Well, I wish I'd scanned them better. I think I rushed through it because I found it well. I wanted to get it done. Um, I knew there were all these sort of rules and regulations. It's funny, they seem to be very permissive. This is the British Library, right? They've actually got an annex in the north of the country, which is not the big London one. But anyway, so I thought there'd be like, it'd be like you'd have to wear a spacesuit and stuff like that, and sort of to not be messing up the materials. But they seem like, no, you don't need to wear gloves or anything, and just get on with it. But at one point, I produced a post-it note to write on, and it was like, the drama about a post-it note being unleashed in the library
Well,
archive section.
it's
It's the
because
same.
of
If
the
I'd
glue.
let loose a live tiger, it would not have been any more.
Well, you have the sticky glue of the post-it, and then if you were using pen, that's a big no-no. But
Yeah.
and then
So
the gloves thing, I always tell people because everyone always asks me, like, do I need to wear gloves when handling manuscripts? And it's like, no, it's actually better for the manuscript to use your hands because the oil from your hands is good for the skin, the parchment.
mm.
It's only photographs and certain items that you have
Oh,
to
I
use
see that you wouldn't
gloves.
want
Yeah.
thumbprints on. Yeah.
Chris is asking, what's the name of the magazine? I think he means the one from the small town.
It's called Gingerbread.
Oh,
So that this place, it has the thing it's not one thing it's known for, or perhaps the thing it's known for, is gingerbread, the biscuit. Um, and obviously at the time that was a thing, and they kind of went with that as a sort of cultural touchstone. Then after a while they wanted to make it sort more serious, so they changed the name to the Ormskirk Yeoman. um, but it's great because just for a very brief period in time you get like loads of insight into what was going on and what people cared about. um, and some of it seems like the same things people get upset about today, like people hate the new buildings that have appeared in the town centre, and the old ones that were knocked down to make room for these new buildings, they were loads better. And people thought the same then. They thought the same about the buildings that people now think were better than, they were saying that that's an atrocity. How could they build this terrible new thing? Um,
I
so,
love the old architecture of buildings. I hate the new architecture because there is none. It's just the box, especially here. But when I walk into an old building in the middle of the summer and there's no air conditioning, I remember that there is some function to the new buildings.
what's your library building like?
So we have a college, and it's old, and it's designed by this guy named Ron Thom, and he um there's it's mostly a residence building, right? And then the library is down the stairs in the basement, and we have a reading room for people to read, then my office, and then where the books actually are, they're sharing a space right now with a bunch of 19th century printing presses. So it's cool, but we still don't have the right temperature settings for the books as we
Mm,
should.
mm,
Like
mm.
people in the British Library would probably be horrified. And it because it shares a space with the printing presses. We have
Um,
activity in the printing room, right? We have people actually learning how to do typesetting with the letterpress. So we have human activity around the rare books, which we shouldn't have. So right now, I'm kind of in a planning a renovation project to have a better setting for the books. And upstairs, there's no air conditioning, but downstairs is pretty cool. Um, but yeah, I think about temperature and humidity every day.
hmm. Yeah, I know there's an archive where I used to work. It's only like one room, but it has the temperature control and stuff like that. It's really interesting. Oh, it's Annie.
Oh,
Hi,
went comic hunting.
people.
What did you get? Did you find any good comics?
I'll just get something while you. Can you do your Elvish song now?
No, that's so funny. I was Chris, if you're still here, I was telling Roy that when you do a live stream, you get up so many times, you get all 10,000 Fitbit steps. It was your co-host
I just
moment.
thought I'd share a model of Linda Carter Wonder Woman.
Wow,
I actually thought they did the face quite well
mint
by the
condition.
standards of plastic models. Um,
Ooh, Conan.
and the disembodied hands as well.
We were talking about Conan. That's a very nice Wonder Woman.
Hmm. Well, I thought it'd be good as a sort of like a fairy to put on the Christmas tree.
Yeah.
She's got this cape that's actually fabric, and yeah, disembodied hands.
Are you? I'm talking to the chat people, but Annie specifically, are you planning to do a Sumerian September with Conan? Is anyone else doing it? I'm thinking about reading Conan for the first time this September.
Oh right. Oh well, in that case, you must. You must.
Well, I also
I always
found
hate it
these
when people
two,
say that,
which
but
the
oh
the
yeah. So you've got all the Conans in a really good edition.
yeah, I don't know if this is the best one, but it's two volumes from Fantasy Masterworks, and the introduction to these is done by Stephen Jones, and they're both signed by him. I just happened to find. I mean, that's probably as close as I'm gonna get to getting anything signed because I don't think Robert E. Howard signed anything.
Guess
Starts with
not.
the Tower of the Elephant, Andrea. I think that's the first one actually.
Yeah, I think if those books, I think they're in the stories are in publication order.
Yeah.
So yeah, you would be, and it's
So
awesome.
it starts with the map of the Hyperborean age, and then
Oh yes, so
Hyperborean, and then the Tower of the Elephant.
right, yeah, yeah, yeah. Some of them put there's an essay about the Hyborian age that sometimes goes in first, which is like read that later. Get into the stories.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I would always say to people, if you read the Tower of the Elephant, if you don't like that, you probably won't like the rest of anything. That's really really great. And then they're really varied as well. So then you go. I mean, for a start, there's pirate stories. He has a pirate career, so I know that's one of your interests. I think
Yeah.
piracy. Oh, talking of pirates, as I just was, I was looking for because I right. The reason I was reading this book by Kristen Ritter that I DNF'd because I DNF'd it. So for a prompt in the Garb August thing, book by a novel by a celebrity. Right. So I was looking for another novel by a celebrity and found a pirate book written by Marlon Brando, which I'd
Marlon
never heard of. Yeah, well, it's co-written. It's him and Donald Cammell, who was most famous for directing the movie Performance.
Wait, what's it
Um,
called? I have
it's
to look
called
this up.
Fantan, FAN-TAN. It looks pretty good. That's not the one I'm reading. I found that an urban
Wow.
fantasy by Wesley Snipes, but
It's
I
funny
thought
because if you look at the cover, it doesn't even look very piratey.
no, it's definitely. Well, it's in the 1920s, but I think there's piracy involved. Uh,
Interesting.
hmm.
I really want to find more Captain Blood um comics because I only have
Hmm.
the novels, but I know that there were comics done on Captain Blood back in the publication days. I think it would be fun to find them. An urban fantasy by Wesley Snipes. What on earth?
Yeah, it's a real thing. It's called Talon of God. Um, and there's a credited co-author as well, which is I think that's cool. You know, rather than sort of just put the celebrity name and make out they did all the work. But
I
it
saw Keanu Reeves also just published a book with China Mieville.
oh yeah. I could have got that, couldn't I? Yeah, which is based on a game.
I don't know, I haven't read it.
Yeah, I think it sounds kind of cyberpunky, and it's based on a game. So yeah, that could be good. Oh no, Chris is going. um,
Well, Chris's live streams are usually 3 hours long. I don't think I
ooh, well,
have it in me for 3 hours.
we've done 1.5. No, I'll probably die soon. Um,
I hope not.
well, it would be a first for the channel.
Yes, and a last.
Yeah. Yeah, not really worth subscribing. You know, you might get lots of views, but there's not much point subscribing. I think we've talked about all the things we thought about talking of.
Yeah,
Um,
and it was a good trial run. Like we should do this again sometime. And
yeah,
um,
the
yeah,
only I had made a note that I've got those Conan books you've got and loads of others, so they're for some reason it's one of the authors where I will buy him in multiple editions. Probably the first time I ever bought a book that I already had when it came out in a different edition was a Robert E. Howard. So I think that's kind of cool. And William Hope Hodgson would be another one where I seem to have lots of
I have a
different
lot of William Hope Hodgson books.
connections. Yeah.
It's one I'm collecting right now. Actually, I got a lot, and then I have some. I got one recently that's signed by Sam Moskowitz.
Mm.
And I'm learning a lot about Moskowitz because at first I didn't really know who he was. I just noticed his name in one of the Weird Tales, and then I learned that he was one of the first. I think he taught the first science fiction course in universities in the States.
Oh right.
And
Wow.
then he edited Weird Tales in the 70s, and then he was a big fan of Hodgson and started bringing a lot of his stories to the forefront, and published a lot of books collecting Hodgson stories and doing introductions for them. And now I'm very interested in Moskowitz because he
Mm.
seems to have this huge knowledge base, and he also anthologized a lot of things, but he also has this kind of background knowledge of readerships and fandoms and historical context and bringing it all together.
Yeah. I don't know if Gavin's still around, but it's the sort of thing he knows a lot about. Um, I mean, certainly I can remember a time when it seemed like his name was on all the anthologies. He just seemed to be anthologizing, left, right, and centre. So yeah, probably a massive influence on science fiction.
Yeah. Um, I don't know. I think another one for me was Thoreau. I have a few editions of Walden, and I also collected anything I could find about him, like
Mm.
biographies, essays, all kinds of side quest books on Thoreau.
Yeah.
Um, and then Peter Pan was another one where I got a few different editions, but I think that's it. Other than that, I
Mm.
only have one of each.
Mm. I've got a bunch of different On the Road by Jack Kerouac
I still haven't
books.
read that one.
He's Canadian.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, I think so. Um, yeah, who else? I've got not loads of H. Rider Haggard. I've got lots and lots of pulpy she's. For some reason, well, probably because it's got a woman in it who's is why it brings out the pulp art in people. So I've got lots of editions of She in paperback, which are kind of good. Um,
See, I really wanted to get Haggard books for like lost civilization type of theme for Egyptomania and stuff. And um I was looking everywhere for it. Was so hard to find. I couldn't find his books anywhere. Like I went online and they were very expensive, and then every bookstore I would go through, they never had any. It was incredibly difficult to find them. And when I found this, it was just three in one. I was like, thank God,
oh,
finally.
nice.
But
Mm.
I I was shocked because everyone on BookTube talks about him as if it's so easy to get his books, and I don't know if maybe in America and the UK they're easier to find.
Yeah, I always got the impression you even see like really old ones over here for quite cheap money because they were such massive sellers. But maybe it's one of those things where he just didn't cross the, just wasn't popular enough in Canada for some reason.
Yeah.
Um, what about John Buchan? Because I think he was like governor of Canada as well as being an author.
Yeah. So by the way, I looked up. Jack Kerouac is American.
Oh, okay.
Um. So yeah, John Buchan is one that is pretty. I there's a
I
bunch of
think he's. Oh,
schools named
sorry.
after him.
I think he might have French Canadian parents or something. But yeah, sorry. Carry on.
But they named a bunch of schools after him. So
Oh,
I remember,
right. Okay.
yeah, I went to like John Buchan School for something once. And then Stephen Leacock was another one where
Oh,
he's
yeah,
very
yeah, yeah.
funny. And then in Quebec, it's Mordecai Richler and Leonard Cohen actually published a lot of books as well.
Oh, yeah. I remember MJ tried reading his novel "Beautiful Losers," and it was not a good experience.
Yeah, no, he's odd, but like you kind of expect that because of his
Mm.
music and his deep voice. But yeah, there's a few people. I don't know. Like sometimes I get the sense that a lot of Canadians don't really read Canadian literature, but there are a few people who are so patriotic about being Canadian that they really go strong on the Canadian top lists. You
Mm,
know.
mm, mm.
Um, but I think I mean, we just read a lot of books from all over the place, and right now I really like seeing a lot more Indigenous books being written, and you get like a different angle on Canada, which is really nice. And Toronto, at least, is the most I think is the most multicultural city in the world.
Mm.
It's the number one. So here we get like all these kinds of books and
Right, right,
voices and
right.
translate, and we have communities too. So like, for example, where I was growing up and when I was in high school, my community was all East Asian, and if you went to the public library branch there, all of the books were in Cantonese or Mandarin. They weren't in English because the community was catering to was just East Asian. So it was very interesting to get like the authentic raw experience of a different country while
Yeah,
you're in
yeah,
Toronto.
yeah, yeah. I kind of think we should wrap up pretty soon. Just ask people who are still here. If you got any questions for either or both of us, anything you want to throw in the comments, just allow a minute or two for that to happen. And then maybe we can wrap up.
Roy, do you drink coffee or tea?
Both.
How do you take
Uh,
your coffee?
well, um, white. If I was out and I was ordering a coffee, I'd probably get a flat white. At home, I make it in with an AeroPress, and then put some oat milk in it. How about you?
Black.
Mm.
Yeah. I just drink it as is.
That's the best. That's the most hardcore way of getting the flavors and stuff. I
Yeah,
mean,
but
how
then if you
far
get
do
a
you?
bad coffee, if it's a bad one, then the whole experience is ruined. You have to have the right coffee every time you drink it
Mm,
black. There's no improving it.
good point.
So I think, should we just close off and say
Yeah,
bye?
I
Or
think so. I think we can. I think this has been. Well, it worked. Good. People showed up, even though, despite me getting the time wrong, that's good. Um,
it happens with the time zone thing. It's just
yeah, I think I should be able to add 5 to a number, but anyway, yeah. Let's say goodbye. Thanks for tuning in, folks, and cheers, Andrea. I'll see you soon, no doubt, in some mad booktube caper.
yeah. I think yeah. Okay, so why don't you end the chat, and I think we still meet on the back end.
Oh yeah, the after party starts now. That's the okay. That's it.
Bye, everyone.